I'm Mark Cuban, and this is how I made, saved, and spent my first million, and then flipped it into $1 billion.
Hello! What's happening, people? My name is Robbie, and today we are watching how Mark Cuban turned his first $1 million into $1 billion. I don't have £1 million to try and turn into £1 billion, but I do have £1,000, so maybe I can apply some of these tips to turn that into £1 million. But before we begin, I ask one thing of you. It's currently the 10th of November, so that gives us just over 7 weeks until the end of the year. And I'm trying to get to 2,000 subscribers by then. It's taken me nearly 2 years to get 1,300, so adding another 50% on in 7 weeks is probably unlikely, but it's the target. So if you haven't subscribed already, hit the button, help me get to the target, and let's get into this. Let's see what sort of tips the big man has for us.
Hey GQ, I'm Mark Cuban, and this is how I made, saved, and spent my first million, and then flipped it into $1 billion. I grew up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, just a middle-class kid. My dad did upholstery on cars. My mom did odd jobs. As long as I can remember, I was hustling. I remember going to my dad while he was playing poker with his buddies and saying, "Dad, I need some new sneakers." And he looked at me, looked at my feet, and he goes, "Those tennis shoes you got on, they work. When you have a job, you can buy whatever you want." And one of his buddies that had to be drunk was sitting at the poker table with him, and he goes, "Hey, I got something you can sell. I got all these boxes of garbage bags. Why don't you sell them in the neighborhood, and then you can take the money you make and buy your sneakers?" He had these boxes that he sold to me for $3. I sold them for $6, but it went like this. "Hi, my name is Mark. Do you use garbage bags? I've got a great deal for you, and every time you need garbage bags, all you ever have to do is call me, and I'll put them in the back of my wagon, and I'll bring them right down to your house." That was my first business, the world's first, probably only, garbage bag door-to-door subscription company.
I'll tell you what, I don't think that's a bad idea. If someone in my street, if a child in my street was selling bin bags, or they were selling anything really within reason, I would probably buy it, and I'm sure a lot of people in my street would do the same, because it's sort of good to encourage kids who are trying to make a bit of money, be a bit entrepreneurial. So I think that would probably go down quite well, unless they were selling drugs. I probably wouldn't buy them, but bin bags, I definitely would.
I started to get older and got into high school in particular. I realized that high school wasn't my jam, that I wanted to learn as much as I could about business. I started taking classes at night at the University of Pittsburgh when I was 16. And then when I was 17, I dropped out of high school altogether and went to Pitt full time. That's where things really started to happen for me. I never ever thought in terms of money, okay, I need to make millions. I always thought in terms of time. Has always been my driving motivation. How can I control my own destiny? How can I control my own time? I started a company called Micro Solutions, and from there we just grew and grew and grew and ended up selling that, and that's how I got my first stacks. So here's the rundown of when I sold Micro Solutions for $6 million.
Right, so he sold his company for $6 million. So immediately the title's lied, because it did say how he turned his first million into $1 billion. But he made $6 million. So actually it's less impressive, because he didn't turn that $1 million into an extra $999 million. He turned it into an extra $995 million. What was that noise? Don't know what that noise was. Could be someone breaking into my house, I'm not quite sure, but couldn't see anyone. Anyway, $1 million into $1 billion is significantly more impressive than $6 million into $1 billion. Not impressed anymore.
$1 million went to employees, $2 million to a partner I brought in, $2 million to me. I live like a student, but the first thing I did was buy a lifetime pass on American Airlines, and I just went all around the world taking friends and partying like a rock star. Other than the airplane,
I wonder what a lifetime pass, is that really a lifetime pass? Like a life sentence in prison is not quite to the end of your life. Is a lifetime pass like 25 years? Is it a certain amount of flights a year? Because if it's just a lifetime pass, I mean, that's actually a really good shout, because over time the price of an airplane seat has went up, but if you've already paid that up front, every year you're getting slightly better return on your money actually. That seems like something only a serial entrepreneur would consider. If I had sold a company for £2 million, I don't think I would buy an unlimited. I don't think any airlines would actually let you do that anymore, to be honest. But I wouldn't consider doing it. I'd probably buy a Lamborghini, which is not a good investment. I would invest a lot of it, but I would treat myself. Maybe I'd buy Bryony, like, I don't know, maybe I'd take her to Nando's or something.
Yes, I wasn't just buying shit. I was saving it. I could have gone out and bought a bigger house, bought a nicer car. I didn't care. What it bought me was freedom. I never thought I was going to work again. I'd made a ton of money in the stock market. I was worth $20+ million. Life was good. Then one of my buddies from college, Todd Wagner, sat down with me, and this was in 1995. He was like, you know, there's this whole new thing called the internet. There's got to be a way we can use this to listen to Indiana basketball. We set up this website called AudioNet, and the next thing you know, video comes along and we turned it into a company called broadcast.com. And so we started what turned out to be the very first streaming company. On July...
Basically founded Twitch. He wasn't actually the founder of Twitch, I know that. Just a joke, sorry.
July 18th, 1998, we went public, and we're guessing, you know, what's the stock gonna open at? And I was the high, I'm thinking $33. Shit goes $62.75. All of a sudden, I'm worth $300 million plus.
That is absolutely insane. Imagine starting a company with your mate, and the company's going well, you're maybe getting a nice income off of it, better income than you would be getting at your 9-to-5 job, for example. Things are going well, and then the opportunity to go public comes up. Maybe you go, right, I'm going to make 10 million, maybe 20 million, 300 million. This is how people get to that level of wealth. Some people, including me potentially, I don't know because I've never been in the position, but if I sold a company and made £2 million off the back of it, there's every chance I would sit back and put my feet up, invest it in property, invest it in the stock market, and sort of just relax. I might not, but maybe I would. Again, I don't know because I haven't sold a company for that much money. But Mark Cuban decided not to do that. He decided to push on and turn it into 300 million. And as we know from the title of the video, he does go on to turn it into $1 billion, which is even more insane. Imagine having $300 million. What the fuck?
I'm sitting there thinking, oh fuck. If this stock price triples, I'm a billionaire. Well, we took that company and became the biggest media portal on the internet. And Yahoo came along and made us an offer. And all of a sudden, that stock price tripled, and I was a billionaire.
That's crazy. That's insane. When you hear about billionaires, it seems sort of hard to fathom how they got there. I can understand how someone can get to £1 million. I can understand how someone could even get to £10 million, for example, but to get to $1 billion, that seems like my brain doesn't compute that until I see a video like this where it shows you the steps that sort of took him there. Obviously, this is quite condensed because it's only been 3.5 minutes, but it makes you realise that these things are possible. Not for everyone. I'm not under any illusion that I'm going to be a billionaire in my lifetime, but it's cool to hear the story.
We sold the company to Yahoo for stock, and I had seen stocks go up and I had seen stocks go down. And I told Todd, my partner, I told everybody who worked for us, there's a good chance because this stock market is so highly priced that the whole thing could crash. Don't be greedy. Todd had this saying, pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. Don't get slaughtered. So I put together what they call a collar. And what that is, I sold some of the upside to that Yahoo stock that they gave me, and I protected myself by buying puts on the downside. 3 months later, the internet stock market cratered. It was called one of the top 10 Wall Street trades of all time. And it taught me a hell of a lesson. When you just chase dollars, it never works out well. I was worth $1 billion motherfucking dollars, and it was the most insane thing that I could ever come to realize. All I had to do was protect it and not get greedy, and I'd be set for the rest of my life. We talked about how
I won't lie. If it's taken him to get to $1 billion before he decided to not get greedy and be smart, he'll be set for the rest of his life. You give me $300 million right now.
You show me a pay stub for $72,000 on it, I quit my job right now and I work for you.
I'm safe for the rest of my life. I'm comfortable for the rest of my life. It took him until he got to $1 billion before he got there.
Made and saved some money. We don't quite have $1 billion here, but let me tell you how I spent it.
Right, okay, so it's going to tell us how he spent $1 billion or invested $1 billion. That's more interesting than $1 million, because if you have $1 million or pounds, supercar, a nice house, some investment property and some stocks, it's gone. $1 billion, you can buy a G5 jet straight off the bat.
I told you I valued time. First thing I bought, Gulfstream G5. Now, I didn't just buy it. I'm a tech guy. I go online and I'm like looking up Gulfstream G5, email the guy and I'm like, can I do a test flight? First time I'd ever been on a private plane. Oh, sitting there and I'm thinking, oh shit, this could be my plane. So I stacked up some more and I sent him an email saying, done. $40 million, I'll buy it. Biggest online purchase.
When you've got $1 billion, I mean, really, what's 40 million, really? To put that into perspective, that's like if you have £1,000 in the bank and you go and spend £40 at Nando's. Fucking hell.
In the history of the internet, still to this day, was my buying that Gulfstream G5. Why'd I want a plane? Because the most valuable asset you can never own is your time. And the one thing I can do is save time and get to places, and it was fucking amazing.
I like that Mark Cuban seems like a relatively normal guy that just is extremely rich. He doesn't have the pompousness, the I'm better than people type of thing. Like when he's saying that the first time he flew in a private jet, it was fucking amazing. That's how I would describe it. I've never been in one. That's how I presume I would describe it. Some people might try and play it cool, but he seems like a normal guy that just has a shit ton of money.
Second purchase, I paid $285 million for the Dallas Mavericks. I went to an opening night of the 99-2000 season. First game of the year. Wasn't sold out. Energy wasn't in the building. I'm a season ticket holder, a huge Mavs fan. I look around thinking, I can do a better job than this. Then I realized I can put my money where my mouth is. This was early November. By January 4th, I owned the Dallas Mavericks. So when I took over the Mavs, I didn't get a big office. I didn't give a shit about an office. I didn't get a big desk. I didn't give a shit about a big desk. We had a sales bullpen. We called it the fishbowl because it was in an open office with all these windows. And we had 8, 9, whatever salesperson. I put my desk right in the middle of them. I put a phone book and a computer printout of all of our former customers. And right there next to them, I just started dialing, trying to sell the Mavericks. Ma'am, I know you've been to a Mavericks game before, but you realize now that it's less expensive to come to a Mavericks game than to take your family to McDonald's? Our tickets start at $8 and McDonald's and a Coke is more than that. Why don't you come and try us out? The first game's free on me. I wanted everybody that worked with me.
$8. $8 to go to a basketball game, regardless of when it was. That seems cheap. How much is a ticket for a basketball game in general? How much would it be if I wanted to go to a basketball game in New York, Chicago? How much is it to see the Chicago Bulls? Let's find out. Chicago Bulls tickets from the NBA website. Let's get an official price here. Denver Nuggets on the 13th, $49. So I was right. $8 is extremely cheap.
To see that if I ask them to do it, I'll do it. Same thing I did with people in the front office, I did with players on the court. We moved into a new arena, American Airlines Center. I wanted them to, when they go to work, feel good about going to work. We put in PlayStations, we put in TV screens. Now to this day, we upgraded it so that we had aroma, because different aromas impact you more before a game when you're trying to get hyped versus after the game. Light impacts you more. All these things that try to give our players an edge to help us win, but to also help them succeed. If you're running a company, and if you can align your interests with those of the people you work with, things are going to work for you. And you know what's really cool about owning a team? It's not so much owning the team, there's little perks. Let's just say that you're down 1. There's 3 seconds to go in the game. Your team takes the shot for the chance to win. The ball's in the air. Everybody is holding their breath. And when that ball goes through the hoop, you see the players go running out and dogpiling on top of each other, screaming and yelling and hugging, and you see this big pile of people. Well, I own the team. I get to run out with them. No one's going to arrest me. It's my team, and that is the most amazing part of owning the team. There's not enough stacks in the...
See, that's what I mean. Normal guy who is a basketball fan buys a basketball team. You don't often see that. Football, for example, it's rare to see someone who owns like a Premier League football team to be so involved and actually get involved in celebrations like that. Maybe it's just part of the plan for Mark Cuban, which is to try and portray himself as the normal guy. And maybe I'm falling right into his trap.
The universe for what that was worth to me. And that was my second big purchase. Third big purchase. I need to set an example here and take the money down because there was a lesson in my third big purchase. So one day, one of my partners from Micro Solutions, Martin Woodall, comes up to me and goes, there's this amazing house that's about to go into foreclosure. The guy who owned it spent 3 years building it. This is their dream house. He and his wife and his whole family spent $25 million building this house. Only lived there 8 months, and then the stock market crashed, and he had never sold a share of stock. And because of that, he had to get rid of his house. Martin called me and said, you can buy it right now, but you have to let me know today, yes or no, $12.5 million. I'd never seen the house. I saw some pictures, had never been there. I was like, fuck yeah, I'm a billionaire. That was my one, why the fuck not purchase.
$12.5 million, that's not even noticeable. It's less than a jet. His house cost him less than the jet. Imagine impulse buying a fucking house. Imagine doing that. I impulse bought a coffee today. I was driving past Starbucks. Had to get some petrol and I seen Starbucks. And I impulse bought this for £3.50 or whatever it cost. He impulse bought a house for $12.5 million.
And it was an amazing house. I've raised my 3 kids there, still live there. But the lesson is...
It's absolutely huge. What even is that at the back? Is that a pool house? A guest house? What is that?
Large. You know, you can't ever take wealth for granted. You can't ever think it's always going to be there. If it's not, you're going to get busted. If you want to be a millionaire, you can do it. But there's a couple things you have to be able to accomplish. Rule number 1, find something you can be good at and then be great at it. Second, you have to know how to sell. Whatever it is you're good at, somebody's going to need that service, someone's going to need that, whatever it is that you're creating, but you have to be able to sell because you don't want to be in a position where you're dependent on other people. Number 3, be curious.
This is true, and this is why I'm here to sell you one thing, and that's a subscription to my channel for free, £0. As I said before, 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. If you didn't click it at the beginning of the video, this is your opportunity to click it now, because why didn't you click it in the first place? Click the subscribe button so we can crack back on. You done it? Cool.
Curious and always be learning. Because the one thing that's certain about business is that it changes every single day. And then the fourth thing, when you have that knowledge, when you have that ability to sell, when you know that when you walk into a room, you know your shit better than anybody else in the room, that's when it's time to start a company. Then you can start to control your own destiny. Thanks everybody in GQ land for tuning in to see how I earned, saved, and spent my first million and then turned it into $1 billion. I'm gonna see you at the home games. Be there.
Cool guy. If I was in America, particularly if I was based in Dallas, I would definitely go to Dallas Maverick games just purely because his sort of personality, it does sort of draw you in a little bit. If that was your home team, you might be sceptical of a billionaire coming and taking over, but he seems to have done a good job of it. I wonder if anyone bought any tickets to games based on these sorts of videos. I've seen podcasts with Mark Cuban, I've seen interviews like this with Mark Cuban. Obviously he's on Shark Tank, which is America's version of Dragon's Den. Bit of a public figure, so I wonder how that plays into things like the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know what sort of other businesses he's involved in now, but he definitely has that thing that's quite common in a lot of entrepreneurs, which is likability, charisma. Seems like a guy that you would like to sit and just have a coffee with and have a chat without it being intimidating, because the guy is extremely vastly wealthy. But again, that could all be part of the master plan for people to like Mark Cuban, because typically people don't really like billionaires because they hoard wealth. Personally, I don't really care about billionaires here nor there. Will I ever be a billionaire? Highly unlikely. Do I hate people who are billionaires just because they're billionaires? No, not at all. Anyway, thank you for watching as always, folks. I'm going to cut this one nice and short. Let me know in the comments what you think of Mark Cuban, what you would do if you had $1 billion. Would you buy a jet? Would you buy a sports team? What sports team would you buy? Anyway, folks, I will see you next week. Take it easy. Remember, subscribe. Thank you.